Hello. Tonight I wanted to do a quick video on quarterstaves, how to make one. This one here is a 6-foot quarterstaff that I made last year. Now I want to mention very quickly that quarterstaves were kind of ambiguous throughout history. They went by a bunch of different names, and they actually really varied in size and shape too. You had them from this size all the way up to like this, like 8 feet tall, and even in the 19th century manuals, you see some that are no bigger than broom handles, basically. You know, it looks like two guys holding broom handles like this. Also, you see a lot with the Japanese or Chinese bow staff, which is very similar, and that's held more like, gotta watch my space here. That's held more like this, or this. Just a quick point. I really don't like this grip as much. And the reason I personally don't like this grip as much is because I find that if you try to block a shot like that, try not to hit the door there, somebody can just come down like whap in the middle there of your hands, and not sure if you can see that there, but somebody can just come down like right in the middle right there and just boom, drive it right into your hands if they hit you with enough force. I personally find that it's much more effective to use it more like a spear, where I can do it like that, I can attack like that. It gives you a lot of options, because even if somebody gets in close, you can come in, boom, or you can throttle back, hit like this. There's a lot of different options that you have with a quarterstaff in this grip, whereas with this grip, you're pretty much stuck to these kind of kayak paddle strikes, which they don't even feel like, when you strike like this, it doesn't feel like it has nearly as much force as striking like that, or like that, or like that. Now, this here, as I mentioned, is 72 inches of, in this case, poplar. So this one isn't really made out of a great wood to make them out of. Something better would be something along the lines of ash or oak. How I made this one, this one needs work. How I made this one was quite simple, actually. I went to a local department store, a local home hardware type store, and I picked up you can pick up, if you go to any home improvement type store, you can find dolls in up to 72 inches. Some of them have them even bigger. In this case, it was 72 inches. I took it home, and what I did was I took a very, very fine-grained sandpaper, and I went over it in I think it was a 300 I used. I think it was a 300. And what I did is I went over it all like this. You know, preferably, you want to make it you want a fine grain 300. So on hardwood, get it all up like this, make it a nice hardwood shaft. But yeah, you want to smooth it out, in all seriousness, because you're doing this a lot. That's the idea. And so you want to get all the splintery bits off of the shaft, and so that way you don't end up driving one into your thumb or something. Now, the other thing is that you may want to make sure you put some kind of stain on it. Now, it hasn't really quite done its job with this one. This one's been probably left underneath that rafter a few too many times, because you can see it's kind of bowing. But the idea of putting the stain in it is to help protect the wood. And in this case, I got lucky because I found a really dark stain, and it took really nicely. But what I'm going to have to do again in a couple of weeks is sand it all down again, because I don't know if the camera's gonna pick this up, but if you look, you know, it's got all kinds of like ugly notches in it. But this is definitely going to be a project. Making a quarterstaff is definitely a project for when the weather's good and warm and we're everywhere. Because these stains, they take days to dry. Like this one took... I did this one in the middle of May and it ended up taking me almost a week before it was on not sticking to my hands. But still, they're very nice. They're a little difficult to practice with. Because you kind of, you know, the problem you run into with practicing with these is that, well, it's a bloody fucking weapon, right? I hit somebody like that in the face, and it's gonna fucking hurt. So that's kind of the problem, is that it's a little bit hard to practice with it without kind of busting up your friends. So I've done a little bit of light sparring with it though, and quite a bit of drilling. 1 second. This is what I get for filming at night when it's quiet. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of drilling with this one though, since I've had it since last summer. I have done some light sparring with it too. Unfortunately, I don't have any videos. Because, you know, it's not something you get to do very often. Oh yeah, another point I wanted to mention. So how these were used historically and why is something I wanted to get into very quickly before I finish off this video in my kind of rambly manner. These were typically used by peasants. They're, as I said in the beginning of the video, they're kind of ambiguous throughout the world, but they seem to have taken up a particular spot in British culture, where they were actually used in sport right up until the 19th century. So if you look at these 19th century manuals, you see them using quarterstaves that almost look like glorified broomsticks. Fucking motion sensor light. You also... Where was I? Yes. Quarterstaves in British culture. So yeah, when you look at some 19th century quarterstaff manuals, you see a lot of British manuals where they're using these ones that are actually quite a bit smaller. I think they're 19th century. I could be corrected on this. Now I'm all messed up because I got the picture of the plate in my head. The clothing doesn't look right for the 19th century. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 19th century where they were using the thin ones. And they had them in Boy Scout manuals too. But these were mostly used by peasants. And the reason they were used by peasants is because in the Middle Ages, you had all of these weapons prohibitions, all throughout England, France, Germany. People, you weren't allowed to carry a weapon into town. A lot of the places, some places you weren't even allowed to, peasants weren't even allowed to own a sword. So they use this because, you know, what are you going to do, ban big sticks? That's basically what it is. It's a big stick. It's a pretty innocuous weapon. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Lord of the Rings where he's going into the hall of the King of Rohan, and Wormtongue tries to take Gandalf's staff. Well, it was kind of a bit like that. Like, you're not going to deprive an old man of his walking staff now, are you? Except for, well, by some accounts, these were actually so deadly that there was one British sailor, captured during the Spanish Armada that actually managed to kill 3 people with one of these things. 3 men armed with swords, presumably rapiers. I'm a little suspicious of that account myself. Thinking about it, it's plausible if the 3 swordsmen were basically like complete shit, and the guy wielding the staff was really good. But I find that actually kind of beggars the imagination, because you'd have to be one fucking quick bastard to keep them from triangulating in on you. Anyway, I think that's enough of my rambling and going, enough for one night. So, this is Kirk from the Shit Tier Swordsman, and have a good night.